Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one.
Yeah. Man.
I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're going to bring you a show today. Obviously, we are dealing with some weather just like the football teams. Charles, you got a quick update?
Rutgers on top of Howard, 7-0, early pick six in this game. Jay Sean Scroggins is your quarterback for the Howard Bison coming into this game. And then we got some weather, of course, in the area. It looks like Jackson State and ULM, they've been pushed back to 8 o'clock. Just got a message here from Charles Edmonds with the Alcorns broadcast network. They pulled the players off the field, but right now they're tentatively still scheduled to go at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 Eastern. So a little bit of lightning. We're in the South. It is what it is.
Especially now with the global warming, but they tell us not real.
They tell us it's not real.
If this ain't real, I don't know what real is. With that being said, Brian, how you doing today before we do our formal intro? Since let Charles jump in there and give us that updated report. Nice.
I'm surviving, Doc. I'm surviving. You know, still recovering from Atlanta in not so great ways, but man, every day is a blessing. So I'm choosing to be positive as much as I can.
Charles, did you look over there on the side of your eye over there towards Brian that was in the second row putting in, the work? He was next to the officials. So, he has other job duties as a sign. Yeah. But when it jumped up to 14-0, did you see the look on his face?
I did. I looked back there and there was a little discoloration back there with Brian. But, being the professional that he is, he tried not to let it get to him. And, things worked themselves out for the Rattlers. So,
Yeah, when it got to 14-10 second half, I saw a whole different facial expression. Seemed much more comfortable, but I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but I'll leave that right there. Welcome to episode 358 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in terms of those studios. With that, at Texas Southern University, first week of school, man, a lot of things going on and busy in a lot of places like that. But with that being said, let me go back to you, Charles, and give me some updates. What are your updates of the week? What's on your mind this week?
Yeah, we got a lot of great games. So I think we're finally. This is really week one here of football. You got. We were over at the Touchdown Club the other day. Great look with regards to Texas Southern Prairie View. That's going to be a great game. We got North Carolina Central, Alabama State, Orange Blossom Classic. We got Benedict and Virginia State in the Hall of Fame Classic on the NFL Network. So a lot of great football, ready to jump into it. This is going to be a fun season. A lot of parity all over the place, I think.
I think you're going to be right about that. It's going to be interesting. If any indication of that opening FCS FBS weekend, it should be fascinating to see what that looks like. We joke with Brian, but in all seriousness, it's a great game in terms of entertainment value. And if that's any indication of what we can expect for this HBCU football season or football in general, we're on for one hell of a ride for Chapter 2024 in the CIAA, SIAC, MEAC, and SWAC. With that being said, Bryan, what's on your mind?
I think that game on Saturday was a great reminder that we all probably need to pump the brakes, or at least those of us who thought their team was going to come out and just, put up big gaudy numbers, really evaluate the fact that teams with new players, new coaches in their very first game need a little bit of adjustment time. And I think I was a little guilty prisoner of the moment. But I will say on the record, my best bet was under 50.5 points. And then I saw, I saw the number drop under 14 because I think originally it was like FAMU by 17, and that gave me pause. And then when I saw that it was 13.5, I got a little hungry. So, and we should have, by the way, we should have won by 14, but we didn't. But anyway, but that was a reminder. That was a reminder that new teams, new coaches, new season, don't go chasing double-digit point spreads this first weekend of college football, especially against, let's say, unless it's a really, really obvious mismatch, don't go chasing waterfalls. Don't go chasing double-digit point spreads. Put it like that.
I love it. I appreciate Bryan always bringing that perspective of not just the game, but for those bettors out there, the money lines and how people calculate that. Charles talked a little bit about the over and under before the game and total points. And after that first half, I was like, we might get there, particularly when they jumped at 14-0. I was like, we might be a lot of points in this game. And then it slowed down to a crawl. And that was the difference in a lot of ways. So I was fascinated with that. Charles, what are your thoughts when you see these early number lines?
The one that caught my eye, it keeps coming down. Started at 7.5, and now it's at 6.5. Is Yale Monroe and Jackson State. Kind of interesting, to see that number is starting to slide. But I think Bryan hit it on the head. I mean, you try not to chase those double-digit numbers, but it's so easy, when you have these FBS, FCS matchups. That's easy money sometimes. So, but yeah, it's a different day and age when you take a look at I guess the leveling of talent, especially with regards to transfer portal.
Let me give an update here. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Travion Scott. This is a great way to open up the season, and it's going to be fascinating. Bryan, you need to share with us. Do you see any upgrades to the facilities when you get to the game on Saturday? Obviously, I've got some sneak peeks at Prairie View, and they did a new wrap around Prairie View Stadium in terms of updating. The previous pictures had players, stellar Hall of Fame players, and it had faded with the sun. Well, they updated that, so a lot of people will get to see that on Saturday hadn't seen it. At Grambling State, they unveiled new digital scoreboards from HBCU Game Day. Grambling State University's James Shack Harris and Doug Williams Field at Eddie G. Robinson Memorial Stadium and Willis Reed Court at the Frederick C. Hobdy Assembly Center will be receiving visual upgrades and enhancements prior to the 24-25 season, in the installation of new digital scoreboards and sound systems. Really nice in terms of sound systems. Quote, on behalf of Grambling State Athletics, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to President Dr. Martin Lamel Jr., VP Brandon A. Logan, and Grambling University Foundation Board Chairwoman Dr. Janet Barnes for their unwavering support in bringing our stadium digital signage project to life, said VP of Intercollegiate Athletics, Dr. Travion Scott. Quote, their dedication and commitment continues to elevate GSU athletics, and for that, we are truly grateful, end quote. Fascinating. Should be exciting for fans when they get a chance to get down there for them home games, big ones, opening up, and the historical matchup they had with Tuskegee. Fascinating to see kind of where that stuff is going to go. But anytime you get new toys, is kind of what I like to call it. It's always a good thing, and it's a good timing to do it before a season starts or before the academic year starts. So fascinating to see what that looks like. With that, let's get into our first break. Come back on the other side, and let's get into some games. Let me see what these gentlemen think about some matchups. Charles got a little cheat code on this as he was able to do some games, so he's going to have to go in a different direction today. So he's going to give us some more detail. Bryan wasn't part of this, so he gets the chance to kind of put his chest out. And we'll see if we have a guest to kind of bring us some love as well. So stick with us after this first break. We'll come back on the other side and give you some more HBCU football this Thursday night.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up message quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, here with Charles Bishop, Bryan Fulford, and Kindric Hooks, D2Football.com. Check him out this season, particularly if you want to follow HBCU football, SIAC. He's going to make sure you get all the insights. You can see them on HBCU Game Day with Stephen Gaither, bringing you some updates as they do great work in terms of covering HBCU football. You know, Stephen Gaither is going to do his cheat code on the CIAA. So we need Kindric to make sure we get the perspective from the SIAC as they get things done. Obviously, you got D2 Ferguson doing his work. He really covers all D2, historically white college and HBCUs. But, you know, he's kind of like Stephen. When Stephen does it all, he still has a love affair with the CIAA. So they balance things out when they bring Kindric in there and give Mr. Hook some love. So we're going to make sure he can do that for us here. Give us some of that insight as these gentlemen will talk about what games they're anticipating. I'm going to ask Charles, because I heard he's an A student, sits in the front row all the time. I'm going to see if I can get him because he's so anxious. I'm going to ask him to wait a little bit and see if the other students in the classroom. I can give some updates because people like Bryan sitting in the back, Hooks comes in here with his cap on, trying to make sure he got it low like I don't see him, ain't gonna call it. But the big Tuskegee. Crest in the background, like we can't see what's going on there. I see you trying to play. I got the walls painted in the right color. I see you, Mr. Hooks. I see you, Professor Hooks. Professor Fulford, while we talking about that, what game is capturing your mind? What top of the list game that you have to see? You can use the cheat code if you're going up to the FAMU. That's fine if that's where you want to go. But if you would tell me why, whatever game you do select, let me know what game you're looking for and why it is of interest to you, and some quick things that you're looking for in that matchup as well.
Well, this may shock you, but it's actually not that game in Tallahassee. It's the game that's a little further south of Tallahassee, all the way down in the bottom at Miami Gardens, that Orange Blossom Classic between North Carolina Central and Alabama State. Well, a couple of reasons. For starters, myself and AD Drew are going to be doing the audio broadcast of that game on Sunday, right on the Black College Sports Network. So excited about that, excited about to have that opportunity. But I think it's fascinating from the standpoint of the OVC being able to sort of move away from the trilogy of Jackson State and FAMU, which essentially decided the SWAC the last 3 seasons, right? So to be able to move away from that to now you have a preseason, you have a matchup between the preseason favorites to some degree in the MEAC and the SWAC, right? And so I think from and there it is. So, and I think from the perspective of having a preseason matchup between 2 teams that have been selected to win their conference is a great way to start the season. I'm looking to see Andrew Body. Is this real? Is this the time that the maturity and growth of Andrew Body was supposed to be on display last year? Unfortunately, he gets hurt. It was probably never really fully healthy, but he never really was able to finish the season. It came to a quick end last year. So this becomes the maturity year. The junior year is supposed to be the year where he shows the growth, but now he's doing it at a different school. And Alabama State has expectations. And so I think for the SWAC, I think for Alabama State, this is a huge game. And it's a huge game for Andrew Body because, I know some people that I talk to, they like to look at wins and losses, and there aren't very many wins behind the resume of Andrew Body. Now, we all know that that's not all because of him, but it is what it is, right? You are what your record says you are, to quote a great Hall of Fame head coach, right? So, right. Andrew Body, we're looking to see. It's prime time. It's prime time. Time to step up. Time to show. And so I've got. Well, I won't give any prognostications because I guess that's not professional if I'm calling the game. So I'll keep that in my pocket. But I think if you listen to me in other places, you probably know where my thoughts are on this game.
Certainly. Let me get into that a little bit before Charles, I ask you your game. I want to get your thoughts. This on the board, at least in terms of rankings. At the FCS level, this is the best game out there. We have it in our top 5 matchup in terms of teams. When you're looking at preseason prognostications, we have Alabama State, the Hornets, coming in at number 5, obviously versus number 1, North Carolina Central, the Eagles, in this matchup. You know what everybody said with the preseason rankings coming out of the MEAC. North State was predicted to finish first. And Alabama State, the Hornets, were finished to pick first in the Eastern Division. What are your thoughts on this matchup? And this is one of the games I know you talked about on Tuesday that had your interest. Why was that?
Are you talking to me, Doc?
Yeah, Charles, I wanted to follow up you since we picked that up there, since this seems to be one of the top matchups out there, top 5 matchups. Does it fascinate you because of the top 5 matchup? How much do rankings fall into place when you look at matchups in terms of trying to push those thought process? Hey, this is top predicted order finish in that framework, not necessarily just what's going on, but from that perspective, does that give you a little extra excitement to kind of look over there and say, hey, I want to know what's going on?
Tremendous amount of excitement, especially when you take a look at the rankings of both teams. And to Brian's point, I mean, both teams are picked to finish in the upper echelon of their respective conferences. Some people are saying this is the Alabama State year. Same thing with regards to North Carolina Central. And then there's just a lot of intrigue for me, especially it's post Davies Richard. Who is Walker Harris? I know we saw him against the Mississippi Valley, but for him to be under the bright lights now, for him to get the lion's share of the snaps, and to see how this team, how they are in the post Davies Richard sort of limelight, and Mookie Collier not there as well. So it'll be interesting to see the toys that North Carolina Central has to justify their preseason ranking. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I think this game has the right amount of buzz, because I think a lot of people in the SWAC are taking a look at Alabama State like, okay, Alabama State normally does this, middling sort of something, and then all of a sudden they take off, on a particular year. Is this that particular year that Alabama State does it?
Well, you always have those fans of MEAC SWAC for nothing else. People like to count wins for the conference.
Yeah.
So the SWAC is 1-0 against the MEAC. This is another chance. Do they preferably take a commanding lead at 2-0, or do things just right size and end right back even? Obviously, you have another MEAC SWAC matchup as well. With that being said, I'm gonna come to you, Kindric, from this perspective before you share your game that you're featuring on. We had you on a couple of weeks ago when we did our top 7 into our poll rankings, and you helped us trend. So I want to say I appreciate you. Coach was much like you for a different reason in terms of top 7. He talked about the rat paws that I had it ranked so high. I wonder how much was he like you, talking about what are you doing with your poll ranking versus him just trying to play the even side. He has a tough matchup to come out the box, so you got a chance to make a statement or tell everybody else what they think about my top 7 poll ranking. But before I go there, you gave us some indication that these matchups between the CIAA, SIAC are not necessarily the highest thing that you look for in matchups, unlike maybe some people in the MEAC SWAC. When you look at your HBCU matchups, your energy is on the SIAC for a reason. That's where your cultural heritage is from, where you connected, obviously, to Skiggy being your alma mater. And you are expert in that area, covering it for folks to learn more about it. How much are you keeping an eye just on HBCUs in general, at the FCS level? Where are you in terms of just your fandom of HBCUs playing FCS football?
I follow it pretty closely. A lot of people don't know this, I guess, but it won't be the first time he's saying this. I do have a degree from Alabama State too, and even though I get them a lot of hard
I never knew that. I'm glad you shared that, because I've been picking on you and didn't know that you had that hidden in your pocket back there.
Yeah, so I follow, I follow Bama State. My adopted mom is also a graduate of Alabama State, a proud graduate of Alabama State. And so I do have a love-hate relationship with the Hornets. So I follow it. I follow even more now because of the pipeline from a lot of SIAC talent to FCS schools. Like on Saturday, Jock Jones, who was a big-time wide receiver at Lane College, to see him, making the roster at Norfolk State. So I follow those guys that lead the SIAC. So that makes me watch the FCS quite often now.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good insight. I like to see where the minds of our experts out here giving us information on HBCs. With that, I'm going to stick with you and give you a chance to talk about which game has your focus. What is the top on the list, the game that you want to see, and why people should pay attention to it like yourself?
So actually, it's 3 games that I feel like this opening week in SIAC football is really big. I think SIAC gets to make they get to make a statement right out of the back. First and foremost, in-house SIAC stuff. I think this Fort Valley Clark Atlanta game is a big game, not for reasons that most people probably think that it is. I think a lot of people, the excitement around Teddy Keaton at Clark Atlanta and the hype that's around it. And like you said, Coach Keaton calling it rat poison. But I think for me, I'm looking to see if Fort Valley is ready to make that step to be a legitimate contender for a conference championship. I don't think Clark is SIC championship material right now, just even since they released their roster. I just don't think that they have the dogs to be in a SIC contending fight this year. So for Fort Valley, you have a 3-time returning quarterback. You returning Brandon Marshall. You bring some depth in at the running back position. You get depth. You get a big-time transfer on the defensive line from North Carolina A&T, Janoris, and I think he's going to be really big for them. And so just saying if they are a team that's prone for a division, not only SIC championship, but a Division II run. And I think that starts with showing a dominant win over what could be low middle of the pack, Clark Atlanta. Outside of that, Albany
Park. I'm gonna jump there, and I'm gonna let you come back and give those other 2. I ain't gonna beat him up like I did you, Charles, and Mike, when we asked Mike to give us 1, and he took over the class and gonna give 3. Because I do like the way Kindric tried to tie it in the bowl, talking about it's SIAC. He gonna put it in a package. So it's 1 because it's SIAC 3 games. We're gonna give you a chance to share both of them in this second segment. But I do like the fact that this is a top 10 matchup, top 7 matchup, as we like to do weekly into our poll rankings, as you know, Charles. This is number 4, even though people question that ranking, versus number 7. So to Kendrick's point, it is fascinating to see what that looks like. We're going to come back on the other side and allow you to share us those 2 and get into Charles, given a chance to come back on top of it and give us his insight. Let's take our second break, come back on the other side, and talk about some more of these HBCU matchups and why Charles has his eye waiting for the storm over there on the back of his TV to see what's going on. With that being said, stick with us after we right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, Bryan Fulford, and Kindric Hooks. giving some insight. I had to jump in there as Kindric Hooks was going to take over the show with all the SIC as he loves to do. I'm not mad at you. Charles, I'm going to get you in here, but I'm going to let you go on those two for SIC. I promise, Kindric, because I do want to hear about those other two matchups. And we have a chance to get a little deeper into that thought. But Charles, as I got you and come back, I know you had a chance to kind of lay out your top matchups on Tuesday. Are there other ones that kind of have your interest, and why are they a little further down on the list, but still have something that you want to peek and catch, either on the television screen or catch the scores?
Well, Brian might not talk about it, but it definitely South Carolina State and FAM, and especially when you sort of take a look at the early quarter troubles that FAM had stopping the run. And then you bring South Carolina State in. It's just curiosity with regards to what Chennis Berry is going to bring to this game. They got 3 all-conference offensive linemen. So can South Carolina State, be able to take some things that they were able to look at against with FAMU and Norfolk State and see can they apply them in this game? But FAM right now, I can't say enough about them. That was impressive. Get punched in the nose, down 14-0, and claw your way back. And then, like we were talking about, Doc, they didn't give Norfolk State an opportunity. They kept the ball for the last 6 minutes of the game. That's championship DNA that's still coursing through their veins, and that was very impressive. But that's a game I'm going to keep an eye on.
Kudos, shout out to J Mac as he is in Birmingham, as you alluded to, and he shared with us, as you talked about at the beginning of the game, that they're in a weather delay. Lightning is wreaking havoc on some of these games. Be interesting to see how much clears up by this weekend. We basically have had rain all week. But with that being said, I'm going to go back to you, Kindric. So now you get a chance to share some love to your mighty SIAC. Tell me the other 2 games that you're talking about you're keeping eyes on and why are they important to you.
Okay. I'm going to give a shout out right quick to that defense of Central State that's they're playing Morehead State tonight, and it's still a 0-0 game going to the second quarter. And that's a really senior. Yeah, good senior defensive squad at Central State. Returned 10 of their 11 starters from last year. But the other game that I'm looking at is that Albany State-Valdosta State game. Albany State has tended to they kind of went under the radar. They went under the radar last year under first-year coach Quentin Gray. They are one of the few teams in the SIAC that did not have a lot of changeover as far as the transfer portal. And so I think for the conference as a whole, continuity is going to play a big role in this conference, especially early on. And so especially when you start talking about going against the Valdosta State, they were very competitive against Valdosta State last season. And I think Quentin Gray has finally got his offensive scheme installed at Albany State. So I'm looking for them to be competitive and could actually get that game. And if we get that game against Valdosta State, I think we'll be in prime position the way some other things play out to at least get 2 teams in the Division II playoffs. So I'm looking forward to that one.
I like the way you think in terms of these non-conference matchups and how this may affect playoffs. You're already looking at the playoff. In terms of how important it is for the CIAA and SIC that you point out. I have Albany State coming in the season ranked 11th. I believe when I didn't have them top 7, you thought they should have been a little further, particularly when you talk about some of those teams maybe being pushed off the top 7. So I'm intrigued about you saying check out that game. I'm going to stick with you because I promised I would give you that a third SIAC, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a guest shot, bringing you on the show, not giving you a full opportunity to give love to your third SIA team. Go ahead and talk about who you breaking down there.
That Miles College West Alabama game. Yeah, that Miles College West Alabama game, in my opinion, Miles College is the best team in the SIAC. I think they are one of the best in Division II football. And it starts with them going down to handle business at a very mediocre at best West Alabama. And it's like when you get to talking about these out of conference games, this game is big for a couple of reasons. And this is kind of going to what you said earlier about why I'm not so high on the CIAA and SIAC matchups. I also follow a lot of SIAC schools on the recruiting trail. And when you start talking about teams that you go against with recruiting guys, Miles in West Alabama are recruiting for Alabama talent. Tuskegee in West Alabama are recruiting for Alabama talent. The Fort Valleys and Albany States, they're in Savannah State, they're recruiting against the Valdosta States and usually the West Georgia, but West Georgia is now Division I. You're recruiting for the same type of guys. You're not in a recruiting battle. Miles is not in a recruiting battle with Virginia State for guys. And so it's for me to win those games. You're winning in-state games, and you're also winning for the recruiting trail. So these games are really big, in my opinion, as well as playoff implications. And especially with the CIAA no longer being in Super Region 7, I think we should line up more against teams that because regional play plays into the calculations of the playoffs. So I think those games have far more advantages than the SIC CIAA matchup, even though people claim to want to see it.
Man, I like your rationale. And you are really even killed, because I told and opened this up talking about how the CIAA and SIC matchups are not looked at the same way maybe many folks that follow SWAC and MEAC. So that's a very good example, because I'm looking at here with your own school, Tuskegee, that I come in ranked number 8, while I had Miles in that matchup at number 5. They face Johnson C. Smith. I have them at 22, but many people have them higher than that the way they finished. But your own school, obviously you're going to watch the game and check it out, but it's not necessarily one that you're focused on because of all the other frameworks. With the playoffs being where the CIAA and SIAC have their focus, it's important for me to understand as an HBCU fan why the focus is for those HBCU fans that are at SIAC and CIAA, which is totally different in a lot of ways for SWAC and MEAC. So that perspective, I think, is important to share when we start to do these cross-cultural analysis of these various conferences, particularly in football. So let me go to you, Bryan. You've been steady, Eddie. And so let me go with your next 2 matchups. What are your top 2 matchups that you have looking, and what direction you're going, and why do these come in basically number 2 and 3 on your top 3 list for football games that you got to make sure that you're looking, if not watching directly, traveling to, you have on your phone in terms of getting updates or trying to do a cheat code and watching on your digital platform.
Right. Well, look, I'm first off, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing so far tonight from our HBCUs. Kindric just talked about Central State. Howard is representing it, and they're not too shabby. And heck, North Carolina A&T in a tie ball game right now. I mean, I just watched them go, 80 yards in 11 plays against Wake Forest. So I'm excited. And one of the games tonight that I'm really excited about is UAPB and Arkansas. And there's a particular angle to this game as to why I'm excited. And I kind of tweeted this out earlier, so if anybody follows me, you know what I'm talking about. But Arkansas Pine Bluff is a 50 and a half point underdog, and the total is 59. Now, Doc, this is an in-state matchup.
All right.
I don't believe that Arkansas is going to embarrass UAPB by, let me see, how many touchdowns is that? That is, let's see, 7. That's, I'm doing the math here. Is that 7?
56.
Yeah, well, so that's 8. So I don't think they're going to put up 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns better than UAPB. They may beat them by 6 touchdowns, might even get to close to 7, maybe 6 and a field goal. But 50 is a lot. 50 is a lot for an in-state. And all the hype that UAPB, Coach Hampton, a lot of folks were buying into what they were talking about in SWAC Media Day, right? I don't believe in year 2 that you're going to come out the box and get beat by 50, maybe by 40 something, but not by 50. So with that said, that 50 and a half is a real number. And I like the over because I think UAPB can score at least 2 touchdowns. And if they score 2 touchdowns and lose by 40, you're going to cover the 59.5. So I think both are in play. So if you're looking for a quick bet tonight, I think it may have already started. UAPB plus 50 and then the over 59. And then on Saturday, the game, my other game is I'm interested in Hampton and Morgan State. You know, I know Charles already talked about the FAMU South Carolina State, and yes, of course, I'm all into that game. But I'm interested in Hampton and Morgan State, man. Hampton, the best quarterback that we are not talking about in HBCU football. Well, that might be the best running back, but I'm saying the best quarterback, QB, might be Chris Zealous of Hampton. He was he was one of my guys last year, and I'm looking for him to get off to a great start against that very tough Morgan State defense and or what we expect to be a tough defense. But I think the 1-2 combination of Zealous and Burris, I think that's going to be fun to watch in the first month of the season. And I don't know if it's sustainable when they get to CAA play. But if Zealous stays healthy, which he was not healthy in the middle part of the season, if he stays healthy, he gives Hampton a chance at a plus 500 record overall, maybe 7 wins or so, maybe even teeter in and tease 8, you know. But that's the game I'm looking for. And then, of course, on the other side, everybody's excited about Morgan State. Everybody wants to crown Morgan State as the next big thing. Okay. You know, show me what you look like on offense.
You gotta show me some offense.
Exactly. Show me what you look like on offense before I get really excited, because I expect the defense to do what it's gonna do. But I gotta see the offense. So that's the other game that I'm intrigued by. And I think it's at Hampton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, is that Hampton?
Yeah, it's at Hampton.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so should be a good matchup. The Hampton folks, you know, they only turn up for the HBCU game, so they should show up for this one.
Man, Silas Edward McMorris is already looking at conference churning in week 1 and week 0 for week 2 when he's talking about ASU should they be pried away. So interesting. And the SIC, so I believe he's talking about Albany State since 1969. That's fascinating in terms of what that looks like. So, Charles, let you close it down in terms of this segment. What is your final game that you have on your radar for this weekend?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mentioned it Tuesday, and Brian, to kind of follow back up on what you were saying in terms of the line has come down on Jackson State ULM from 7.5 to 6.5. So, what is it that Lefty and Swifty are telling me out there in Vegas about this game? So that now I'm a little intrigued. I'm pretty intrigued. Like and I mentioned Tuesday, I think Jackson State has some toys, especially with regards to running backs, and if they can control the clock and get some stops on defense, that game becomes extremely interesting when you talk about FBS FCS matchup. And you know, talent-wise, when Jackson State played ULM a couple of years ago, there was no difference. So it'll be interesting to see how these teams have either progressed or regressed in 2 years.
Sterling, with that being said, I'm going to give a little bit of Stephen Gaither some love when you talked about A&T out there. He's actually at that game in Wake Forest. Called him earlier before the show to check that out. So I'm going to give him a little love with his Winston State Rams. Number 15, they are hosting Newfield State. Interesting that. And then I'm going to take my own privilege, and while the CIAA and the SIAC doesn't do this, you know, the marketing person in me wants to do this. So I'm going to look at this Virginia Union and Kentucky State. Particularly in a couple of weeks ago, Hooks said that Kentucky State was going to have the upset of the year in week 0 against number 1 ranked Virginia Union. I got Kentucky State ranked number 16, so I want to throw that out there and make sure he knew I was listening. And then obviously you have another CIAA SIAC matchup with Virginia State and Benedict. I have that as a top 10 matchup. Number 2 Virginia State, number 6 Benedict. We're going to quickly find out what has taken place at Benedict, and if everybody thinks that Virginia State is the real deal, is that going to take place? And Obviously, you have that matchup. I told you about Johnson Smith and Tuskegee. So I'm fascinated what that looks like. With that being said, one final thing in this segment. Shout out to Brandon King, but I'm going to have to tell him to talk with you, Brian, to make sure he starts understanding the importance of giving when he gives a prediction that he got to give the point breakdown. He did a nice article. You know what I'm talking about, y'all? You can go to sneakershop.com, sneakershoptalk.com. He previews and provides a prediction for the 25th John Merritt Classic, Tennessee State and Mississippi Valley State. Now, a lot of folks are joking about Mississippi Valley State. This was only a 7-point game last year. Last time they played, I should say, 6 points, 26-20 in terms of that matchup. And I'm fascinated with all the things that took place at Valley and excitement, what they have down there. This is a chance for them to make a statement. Obviously, the biggest statement is to win the game. This is another SWAC matchup versus Tennessee State, as they have a couple of games on there with Pine Bluff early. Many people see those two teams probably near the bottom, if not the bottom of the SWAC. If they can find a way to make a statement, what does that mean for the SWAC in just general in terms of the HBCU landscape and to some degree the FCS? So I'm fascinated to see what happens here. He does pick Tennessee State to come out of this, but he doesn't give any points, Brian. So give him a call and show this man how to make sure that he understands. When you're in this business, you got to give not only the predicted outcome of the game, but you need to do that based on the score. With that, let's take our last break. We'll come back on the other side and get into a little discussion. I want to talk about this newly announced HBCU tournament. I want to see what these guys think about this tournament. Stick with us after our last break. We'll come back on the other side. Maybe give you an update or two, see if teams are still in the weather delay or if these HBCUs are still playing some tremendous football. We'll give you some of that updates right on the other side before we get into some talk on the inaugural Black College Invitational Championship and see what these gentlemen have on their mind about this announcement. Stick with us after this break. We'll come back on the other side.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles, you have any updates?
Yeah, North Carolina team moved the ball pretty well against Wake Forest. They're moved into Wake Forest territory. 7-7 is the score. 17-7 is the score here with Rutgers on top of Howard. They are just starting the third quarter.
Kendrick, do you have an updated score for us down there on the D2 level?
Yes, Central State is 6, and Morehead State is number 7 at the moment, and it's about 8 minutes left in the second quarter.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Brian. Any updates, or did Charles give the ones that you had that you were looking at quietly following as I see your eyes sliding over there?
I'm nervous, Doc. Arkansas has already put up 2 touchdowns in the first 6 minutes of the ball game. Lord Jesus.
Lord, let's
Look.
say a prayer.
Well, I'll tell you one of my 2 bets is looking good. Like the over 59.5 is looking real good. So as I said, but right now it looks like UAPB is just flirting with getting into Arkansas territory. They're on the Arkansas 35. So I need a score here, Pine Bluff. I've never rooted for Pine Bluff as hard as I'm about to over the next 2 hours.
I know you are. With that being said, let me get back to the topic of this segment. HBCU tournament basketball returning to Charlotte. For you all that follow HBCU football and basketball are very aware that Charlotte had the CIAA basketball tournament, one of the biggest ones out there for many years, and then it recently moved to Baltimore over the last several years. With that being said, it's a chance for a postseason game in this framework, in this matchup. Listen to this and let me get your thoughts on it. The inaugural Black College Invitational Championship will bring top men's and women's basketball teams from the MEAC, SWAC, CIAA, SIAC to Bojangles Coliseum for a tournament on March 20th to the 23rd. The BCIC, which aims to shine a spotlight on HBCU schools, local Black businesses, will also include high school education days and new sponsorship opportunities. Quote, this may sound weird to some of you, but I had a dream in November, Bellamy said, and I could see it as clear as day, using us having the basketball tournament here in Charlotte. He also was quoted saying, I called my best friend Russell Stewart. I said, Russ, I know this is going to sound wild, but I had a dream about this basketball tournament. We have to do this here. And he told me, quote, nothing you do is wild because what you always put your mind to, you do, end quote. I'll stop it right there before I get a little more. What was fascinating to me, I heard talk recently and over many years where people were looking at bringing some type of basketball tournament that featured programs from the MEAC, SWAC, CIAA, SIC. One of them, all of them, some of them are multiple games in this between men only, some of them with men and women. This one, again, features the men's and women's basketball team. Tickets are already on sale for this inaugural event. The full slate of CIAA and SIAC men, women's championship games tipping off between noon and 8 p.m. Get to the event underway on Thursday, March 20th, followed by MEAC and SWAC matchups on Friday, March the 21st. Championship games between CIAA and SIAC will be held on Saturday, March 22nd, and men's and women's teams from the MEAC SWAC will meet in their finals on Sunday, March 23rd. So from that, it looks like you're probably going to have a minimum of 8 teams playing the semifinals and the finals over 2 days. What that looks like, men's and women's. So I'm fascinating with that. Even the Charlotte mayor got involved. Mayor Vi Lyles, who first woman mayor of Charlotte, joked and poked fun a little bit at the mayor out there in Baltimore. She was quoted as saying, I should say, first thing I want to say is, Wes, next time you have a dream, make sure you have $1 million and poking fun at each other. For those, can get in here and get into it. For those that follow them, kind of know where that's going. Charles, I'm going to go to you first in terms of this matchup. I'm fascinating to see in terms of marketing. It's something that I'm going to do in my graduate class to look at this as a project, and I want to see what my students think of this matchup and what can they pull out. But I want to get your thoughts on, is this something that can work in the marketplace? What are some of the things that you see maybe as the benefits, or there's some concerns that you have in this?
Okay, so obviously the first concern is the dates. When we take a look at the March time frame, is there a conflict with regards to the NCAA tournament? I think that's the first thing that kind of jumped out at me. I like the I like the formatting of it. I'm excited about that. It harkens back, if you're a history person, harkens back to the old NAIA days of taking a look at the best HBCU teams, meeting up in one place. Charlotte, North Carolina in general is a basketball mad state. So the assumption is it is going to be a tremendous outpouring of support for HBCU basketball, especially when you take a look at the run that the CIAA had over there. So on the surface, I love the idea, but just are you going to actually be able to get the conference champions to come to this game?
I think that's a really good question, and I'll come over to Bryan. And I don't see you getting the champions, and I think they're aware of that. They alluded to if they couldn't get the champions, and the unique thing they said is the regular season champion. And so there is some variability that you may get that at the Division I level, because the Division I level, the regular season champion, men or women, may not be the team that wins the tournament. And if you win the tournament, then the tournament team goes to the playoffs. And with the removal of the NIA providing a automatic bid for a team that won in the regular season, that opens up some stuff. I'm going to be interested because I'm sure Kindric is going to talk about this. At the Division II level, you tend to see multiple teams get bids at least one of the conferences, CIAA, SIAC. And oftentimes, depending on how well the regular season champion get, they may still get a at-large bid as the tournament teams gets an automatic bid. But last year, you saw where a couple of teams won the double-double, as I like to call it, during the regular season and the tournament. Clark Atlanta got it done in terms of those Panthers that I tell you. I know football, basketball, they made a statement, kid. I know you still looking over your shoulder about that. But with that being said, what are your thoughts in terms of this type of tournament? What are some things that you think may help it, and what are some other things that you see as a concern?
Yeah, so I look at it. So I follow women's basketball really closely in the SIAC, and I look at last season. A lot of times we can get multiple teams in on the men's side. Sometimes it's harder for us on the women's side. We had 3 teams with 20+ wins last season. We had Savannah State, Miles, and Kentucky State on the women's side with 20+ wins. And what happens is Miles gets to go. Kentucky State was able to kind of handle Miles in the regular season, but they dropped it in the tournament. And in my opinion, I feel like Kentucky State was the team that was probably best built for the type of playoff team, because they just were a better shooting team. They had better height. And so to see an opportunity for them to go and play somewhere else, I think would be really big. I just want to shout Kentucky State coach out. She's one of the youngest coaches. She's 27 years old, so she should be 28 now. But and just shouts out to them, and she turned that program completely around. They had a really amazing season. So to have another thing to go to, I would like that. I think anytime you start talking about SIAC is knowing your consumer, knowing your consumer, knowing how to reach that fan base, to tell them about it. I see it even what happened with the Beach Bowl. The Beach Bowl, there were actual schools in the country that still didn't even understand the concept themselves. Just, it's like, so when we have these things, I know talking to the conferences is fine, but are you really going to sit down with these schools and just, hey, how do we reach your fan base to let them know, hey, there's an opportunity to support your team, whatever, and reach out to the alumni bases in those cities and things. So it just, we talk about lack of resources all the time, right? In the HBCU space. But I think we have a great opportunity to do the grassroots work in making these things great. It takes some work. It takes rolling up your sleeves to get people hyped up, to get them just educated about what it is. And I think once people are educated on what it is, I think that it probably could turn into be something great, if they're willing to put in the effort.
Great points, salient points. We'll let Bryan close us out on his thoughts in terms of why this may work, what his concerns. I thought both Charles and Kindric laid out some really good opportunities, but also some threats, if you would, that need to be considered in terms of moving this tournament forward. Go ahead, Bryan.
Well, the first thing that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at the dates, that essentially is the opening weekend. If I'm kind of playing it, my thoughts here, because they're saying they're starting on a Thursday. Well, guess what Thursday is? Thursday is what I like to say the one of the greatest days in college basketball is day one of the NCAA tournament. Then it's going into Sunday, which is the last day, which from a television perspective is one of the second greatest days, because you get you almost get a smorgasbord of games that run from noon all the way until about 10 o'clock at night. The way they layer out the games of the second round. So you're competing with the 4 days, the biggest 4 days of the NCAA tournament. That's challenging. Like, am I as a fan that much of a fan that I'm going to leave my television set or the sports bar or wherever it is that I digest all of these great basketball games to go watch whomever from the CIAA, SIC, MEAC and SWAC. So I think from a 10 perspective, that's going to be a bit challenging. Secondly, the number of teams that are you're going to compete. I'm still trying to look at this and say, how many teams are we talking about? Are we talking what? 2 from the CIAA, 2 from the SIC, 2 from the SWAC, 2 from the MEAC? Is that how this is going to go? And then I just looked at the number of teams that participated in the Division II playoffs. Just like Kindric was talking about, you have a number of teams that go to the tournament. Well, this past year, 3 women's teams played in the NCAA tournament. 4 men's teams played in the tournament. Okay, and they were all pretty good teams. You know, you had Lincoln, PA, West Virginia State, Benedict, Clark, Atlanta. 2 of those won their conference. You know, and then on the women's side, you had Fayetteville State. Where is it? I just had it pulled up. Fayetteville State, West Virginia State, and Miles. So, which teams are you getting? And then the last thing, there's got to be a heck of a money incentive here. I think you got to have some kind of money involved. I'm not sure what the $1 million dig was that the Charlotte mayor threw out there, but you know, is Charlotte putting up $1 million of NIL money for the winners? Now, if that's the case, you might definitely incentivize some young players to want to come. Remember, I warn people. This is what time of year, fellas. Doc, you know, it is spring break season, and if you're offering me an opportunity to win $1 million to play basketball one last time for my college, I might be really, really motivated to practice, to avoid going to the beach and hanging out with all the pretty young ladies at the beach, to go play some more basketball. But if you're not offering me $1 million, yeah, you know, what is my motivation? Especially if I didn't win. Look, I'm not going to the NCAA tournament, right? So what's my motivation? Yeah, do I want to really continue playing basketball? So those are some of the challenges that they have, I think, in front of them.
I agree with you. Between the D2 and D1, those are perfect concerns that all of y'all open up, as we said, opportunities, threats in terms of the success of this tournament. And I'll be interested in collecting that data. You know, I was consulting for a group that was looking at that, and those are some of the things that I threw out there. So I'm glad I was on top of it in terms of understanding the availability of the teams, what's going to push them to get through that and that kind of stuff. With that, let's put a pin on it, and we're going to stop it right there and close it down. Thank you for providing that discourse, because I think it's important for fans to see the context of how we look at these things from a business perspective is what you get right here on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports. Come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday at 9 a.m. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm going to test Kindric, see if he got it right this time. We're going to see what kind of grade he gets in the class. Pretty big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Bryan?
Lecture.
Kindric?
Dismiss.
Hey.